To work as a spot composer, there are certain essential skills you'll need to have. Now, when I say work as a spot composer, I don't mean just getting one of your tracks licensed or doing a one-off assignment. I'm talking about having the necessary skills to work as a spot composer consistently, on a daily basis. Nowadays, the spot composer must wear many hats, in addition to simply writing a great piece of music. The ability to take on many roles will help you to satisfy client requests smoothly and efficiently, especially when working with the tight turnarounds and deadlines in the commercial industry. So, here's a list of some of the skills to develop if you want to be a strong player in the game. Number 1, the ability to understand, interpret, and compose in a variety of styles. Number 2, you want to be able to work, edit, and program fluently with a DAW such as Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, Digital Performer, and others. Number 3, the ability to arrange and rearrange your tracks, basically to understand the various principles of musical arrangement and musical flow, and to be able to make edits to your tracks and adjust timings in natural sounding and musical ways. Number 4, the ability to produce a good sounding mix, one that's appropriate to the genre you're working in. And number 5, having the ability to perform on at least one instrument for both composing and programming. Let's take a closer look now at these essential skills. There's a couple of reasons why I think understanding a wide variety of musical styles is important for writing commercials. The first one should be an obvious one. The more styles you're comfortable with, the more jobs you can accept. If you're only comfortable making a hip-hop beat, for example, or writing Appalachian fiddle music, you might get a few opportunities here and there. However, you'll probably be waiting quite a while between phone calls.
The number you have dialed has been changed.
The second reason, maybe not quite as apparent, is that brands and ad agencies are often looking for a new, fresh, and unique sound to their music tracks. At least this is what they'll frequently aspire to do. The thinking here is that a unique approach to an ad's music track will bring attention to the spot as a whole. The commercial composer constantly gets requests for hybrid tracks that merge two or more styles together. For example, you might be asked to create a surf rock track with orchestral elements, or perhaps a heavy metal track with classical piano riffs. If you were to get a call today to create something like one of these examples, would you be familiar enough with the way these styles operate to jump right in and get to work? The best way to improve in this area is to constantly be listening to music, especially in genres you're not already familiar with. Go out of your comfort zone here. Even if you don't enjoy listening to certain genres of music, at least spend a little time familiarizing yourself with the basic ways that they work. If you aren't totally comfortable with the style, you should still be able to listen to it and quickly identify its core characteristics. Of course, every style has lots of variations, but also has rhythms and instrumentation that are used over and over again. It's impossible to be familiar with every single style, but you can definitely develop the skills to quickly analyze their elements when in a time crunch. The ability to work fluently with your DAW is one of the most important skills to have. Fluently is the key word here. In general, you should always figure out the easiest and most efficient way to perform a repetitive task in your software because, in the commercial world, you're going to be working quickly under pressure. And key commands will be your best friend here. I have my own key commands that I've created for just about every task I do in Logic, which is my DAW of choice. These key commands save me a tremendous amount of time and allow me to get projects done by deadline. A good habit to get into is to pay attention to those workflow tasks that are slowing you down during a session. And then later on, when your session is finished, go back to your DAW, open it up, and spend a little time to see if you can find ways to speed up those time-consuming tasks. Sometimes, simply by looking through the menus and list of possible key commands, you discover ways of doing things you weren't even aware of. Even after using Logic for many years, I'm still always discovering faster and more efficient ways to perform tasks. Arranging skills are incredibly important in the commercial world. By arranging, I'm talking about the ability to lay out your track in a way that makes sense with the picture, and then being comfortable enough to rearrange it and to rework timings, which is a fact of life when you're creating music for ad agencies. All the standard song arrangement concepts from the pop and rock world are still relevant here. The only difference is that in the commercial world, everything is condensed. Your intro might be 2 beats or a bar, for example. Your bridge might be 2 bars. Contrast that with the 8, 16, or 32 bars you find in a typical pop song. Comfort with song form and its components is essential for the commercial composer. Undoubtedly, you'll get requests from the agency or music house to manipulate track timings, to eliminate certain sections, to add a beat or half a beat here or there. Now, the more you work in the 15, 30, and 60-second formats, the more you'll find ways to be malleable with your arrangements when necessary. I've often used odd-metered bars to make a track work with the timings of the picture, to make it hit in all the right places. You'll most likely be doing your own mixing as a spot composer, and primarily this is due to tight deadlines. In fact, I have to start getting my mixes in shape already during the production and performing stages. While I'm recording my tracks, I'm also doing mixing tasks like adjusting balances and EQ settings. This isn't my preferred way of working though, since I usually like to separate the recording process from the mixing process if I can. It's just simply a necessity when you're on a tight deadline. The quality of your mix is critical to how your track comes across. Obviously, every genre is different and some call for mixes with more or less reverb, more or less bass, more or less clarity and definition even. You want to pay attention to the basic mixing trends in the genre you're working in so you can deliver something that sounds authentic. You'll need proficiency in at least one instrument to work consistently as a spot composer, and I think the best instrument to know is the keyboard, both for composing and programming. With the keyboard, I can see both harmony and melody possibilities laid out in a visual way, which is great for composing. And having a keyboard that also functions as a MIDI controller will allow you to quickly call up a patch in your session and start writing immediately. Also, it will allow you to play in a lot of your other instrumentation like bass parts, drum beats, pads, and strings. On my tracks, I generally perform most of the instruments, whether they're live guitars, basses, keyboards, or percussion, as well as electronic and sample-based sounds that reside on my hard drives. A final point I should make before we move on is that you'll want to build up a list of contacts on various instruments, so that when you get the opportunity, you can hire other great musicians to enhance your tracks and give them that live feel. It's especially important to make connections with great vocal talent because you'll be needing great voices on your track when you have a lyric or hook to deliver.